For our group's article presentation, we are going to be reviewing the 3x1 program for migrants and vigilante groups in contemporary Mexico, written by Clarissa Arimendez and Lauren Duquette, 2019. Before we address the problem, we need to define some commonly used terms throughout the article. First, vigilante groups are organizations composed of private citizens who decide to take up arms to provide security for their communities. Second, hometown associations, referred to as HTAs, are immigrant organizations based on common hometowns. Lastly, Mexico's 3x1 program is a federal social spending program launched in 2002 by the Fox presidential administration that matches the collective remittances that HTAs send back to their origin community at the local, state, and federal levels of government. This article discusses the emergence of armed vigilante groups in coordination with the United States-Mexico migration. Essentially, the researchers of this article are interested in determining why vigilante groups form in Mexico. Vigilante groups are not driven by ideologies or economic interests, rather to protect their own community because it's where they derive their legitimacy from. Their protection is seen as a public good and a form of civic participation. The researchers suggest that the cooperation of government and HTAs in Mexico's 3x1 program encourages the form of vigilante groups. The communities participating in the 3x1 program in Mexico receive collective donations and funding from migrant HTAs. This makes them more attractive to drug trafficking organizations. Drug trafficking organizations in Mexico often target the wealthiest municipalities in order to extort and commit crimes on them, which implies that communities that participate in the 3x1 program might be more vulnerable to these crimes. The problem is that communities that receive the most collective donations from the program may be likely to have vigilante groups in order to protect them and their resources from criminals. Their hypothesis is that vigilante groups form because they are driven by a desire to protect migrants' collective investments through the 3x1 program. Relevance. It is important to understand the emergence of vigilante groups. They can threaten the rule of law and the ability of state legitimacy. Although they have contributed to the reduction of crime, citizens are unable to hold these groups accountable. This makes human rights violations and extrajudicial killings by vigilante groups very common. Prior research. There are 5 potential reasons that explain the emergence of vigilante groups. I will cover them. First, they are a direct reaction to violence and crime. Citizens believe that the state cannot control the violence, so they will take matters into their own hands. Second, vigilantes understand there is an equal access to safety where wealthier communities can afford to hire private police and securities and poor communities cannot. Third, communities with histories of armed mobilization in Mexico are more likely to develop vigilante groups. Fourth, vigilante groups are formed by a need for collective action, which is fed by a sense of solidarity with other members of their community and the view that citizen action is enough to achieve their goals. Lastly, groups emerge when there are patrons and sponsors in the area, giving them the resources and incentives to form. However, research has overlooked the role of international migration in vigilante group formation, which is where these researchers step in. Methodology. Drawing on an original dataset collected from 2,352 Mexican municipalities between 2002 and 2013, The researchers examine how the cooperation of state authorities and hometown associations in the provision of public goods contributes to the formation of Mexican vigilante groups. Conclusion and hypothesis. The hypothesis presented by the researchers who made the article are as follows. Municipalities that engage with high frequency in the 3x1 program are more likely to have vigilante groups. 2. Municipalities that participate at least one time in the 3x1 program are more likely to experience vigilante groups. 3. Municipalities that engage consistently in the 3x1 program over the course of the entire program period are more likely to have vigilante groups. 4. Municipalities where HDAs have invested the greatest total sum of money in the 3x1 program are more likely to have vigilante groups compared to those who do not have any affiliation to the 3x1 program. The conclusion the researchers settled on is essentially that vigilante groups do not form based on a desire to protect migrants' collective investments. There is a positive relationship between municipalities that participate in the 3x1 program and vigilante groups, meaning as one increases, so does the other. What now? The authors do not seek to solve the problem in this article, but rather provide an explanation for it. They identified some areas that could be explored further to allow for more elaboration on the problem. From their findings, HDAs could potentially turn away from the 3x1 program to support vigilante groups, but they lack the municipal data to explore this outlook. They also believe it's worth exploring the role of local leaders in the 3x1 program when it comes to sponsoring, motivating, and/or legitimizing vigilante groups. This could potentially create another explanation as to why, and even how, vigilante groups form in Mexico. Thank you.